Hey, everybody. Well, this evening I am producing my very first short stack Devo. Uh, if you read about the description of the channel, you know that the short stack is not a full length sermon type bit, but this is a very short. Most of them are going to be 10 minutes or less. Because I know a lot of people's attention span is not really there, as well as the time to sit back and listen to something 30 or 40 minutes every time is not really there either. So I want to do something called a short stack, and the name comes from my love of pancakes. Since I was diagnosed with diabetes back in 2004, I can't enjoy all the pancakes that I would like. So I have to settle for the short stacks. And so my reference to short stacks, meaning you get enough to satisfy you, and that's about it. So tonight's short stack is related to saving the world. A lot of people feel like when they become a Christian, that they have to do things to save the entire world and make these huge impacts on the world. Uh, Although God does have a lot of that going on in certain aspects, but that's not our primary goal as Christians. To spread the gospel, it should be pretty much our willingness and our ability to come alongside an individual and to spend time with them, invest time with them, put forth effort in order to get them to have a better understanding of what the gospel is all about, the relationship with God is all about, what the Bible has to say about godly living, and applying those concepts to one's life. And that takes time, and you cannot expect an individual to just get it after one or two meetings, one or two church services, sermons, Bible studies, whatever. Discipleship is a long run and not a short sprint. This is geared to help people understand possibly who have questions about why does God allow evil in the world? Why does He allow so much pain and suffering to take place in this world? And we're going to try to cover those two things real quickly in this very first short stack. The quote you see here, so you're here to save the world. What do you say to something like that? If you remember in the movie Matrix, Keanu Reeves' character was being asked this question when he got ready to take on the tasking of basically saving the world. And those are the things that we're going to discuss tonight. What do you say about something like that? Well, I don't have much to say, but I know the Bible talks about certain things in regards to how we should carry ourselves in the business, the kingdom business that needs to take place in our life. So we're going to talk about that here in this short stack. The first thing I want to do is I want to give you a quote from a Scottish theologian, Mr. Smeaton. Now, I want you to take a little bit of time. If you got to pause the video, please do so and read this, ponder on it. At first, you might think it's very cruel or just not the right type of thinking, but read it two or three times or however many times before you can get a better understanding of what he's trying to say here. To convert one sinner from his or her way is an event of greater importance than the deliverance of an entire kingdom from temporal evil. Think about that for a minute. Once you've thought about that, and hopefully you have come to a realization that there's a great deal of truth to this, as well as a deal of examples given to us in the Bible. So when we talk about saving the world, we talk about how we do it, we should look at our example, and that's Jesus. Jesus should always be our example. Followers of Christ should actually follow him. That's what disciples do. They follow that individual and they learn from that individual based on his actions, his words, and they just follow what he does and they don't deviate. We've done a lot of deviations over the years in the, I'll just say, general sense of the church. And we should go back to looking at what Jesus did, how he spoke, and learn from that. So was Jesus's time on earth meant to save the world? His ministry on earth, his death, his burial, and his resurrection, and the shedding of his blood, by all means, that was meant to save the world, to be the replacement for us. And so, yes, in the grand scheme of things, yes, Jesus came to save the world so that we all may have life eternally. The possibility of it. Not that everybody's going to have it because everybody's not going to accept him. But when he was on earth, his actual ministry on earth, he did not come into this world born to a royal family. He never ran for a political position wherever he was. Although he had political opposition, he was never in a political position. He was an elected official at all. He had a following, but he was not an elected official. He never used any time to meet with kings or leaders, fireside chats, round tables, think tanks, whatever you want to call them. He never had those things with the leaders of the world. He didn't throw a bunch of money. He didn't have a lot of money, first of all. He didn't throw a bunch of money towards fixing a lot of problems. He didn't have the same ideologies that we have today. I remember being in South Africa, and the guy, one of the pastors, told me, he says, you know, people come over here with their big checkbooks and they act like they're going to change everything about us that we've been doing for years and years. He said, and the most craziest thing that he saw was a lot of people, one particular group brought a sewage system to his particular area, and they set up this sewage system because people were basically throwing, their raw sewage out in the streets and stuff. And so once they set it up and they got everybody, they said, this is what you need to use and not throw your stuff in the street. And they told them how to use it. What they failed to do is tell them how to maintain those systems, get them working properly if they broke. So after a short amount of time, they started failing mechanically, and the people just went back to their old way of doing business. But that was a lot of money, time, and effort spent for a very short time period to try to change something. Programs, we got to get away from just throwing money at stuff and actually trying to help the real problem, the root of the problem, if at all possible. And Jesus did that. He did exactly that. He did, however, assemble and prepare a team that would help him change the world as it was known back then. And it is still one of the things that changes the world today. All those things that they did over 2,000 years ago, we still talk about, we still fight about. And so Jesus changed the world and turned it upside down when he was here on earth. He did things totally different. He took everything that was the norm and turned it upside down. And a lot of people were uncomfortable with that. A lot of people were attracted to it. He took the time and the effort to heal people, lay his hands on them, talk to them, be with them. He went about to seek these people out, not just throw money at a situation from a distance and claim that he did something. He dealt with the poor, the immoral, and others on an individual basis. He didn't just hang out with people who thought like he did and acted like he did. In fact, there was nobody like that, really. I mean, but his disciples, he didn't just spend time with his disciples in his little closed circle. He went out and talked to everybody. I think out of all of the things that COVID-19 has done, it has taken us out of the comfort of being in those four walls of a church building and being comfortable with that, because that makes us paralyzed in our ability to really go out and do what we were called to do. And we just stick around these church buildings and we think that we're doing a lot of these great things, and we need to be out and about. Unfortunately, COVID-19 keeps us from interacting the way we would like to, but at least hopefully it's getting our attention to say, hey, We can't do the things that we used to do. We got to find more ways and better ways. Here are some of the people that he talked to individually, and he not only healed them or with their physical issues, but their spiritual issues as well, and their emotional scars. He healed those. The woman at the well, and anti-racism at its best. He was an equal opportunity healer. The woman at the well was somebody that he shouldn't have been talking to according to culture. And you look at the world today, we haven't come too far from that kind of mindset still today with all the racial tensions we have going on, not just here in America, but around the world. The woman caught in adultery. He was actually the one who started the women's movement, if you will, and brought them out of that uh, entity of being a second class citizen. They're just as equal in God's sight as men were. Ever thought about that story? How they brought the woman who was caught in the very act of adultery? Well, if she was caught in the very act, what happened to the guy? Why didn't they bring him? Why was it just focused on the woman? Think about that. And think about the things that go on today in regards to the sexual assault, sexual harassment cases, how a woman is re-victimized over and over and over again, especially during the legal aspect of her case, when they try to pull up all the dirt on this individual and basically say, you know what, just because of your background, you probably deserve what you got because you're such or whatever. Nothing's really changed in the mindset of humans, even after 2,000 years. And then there's Nicodemus, who was a spiritual leader. He was a Pharisee, came to him at night, and Jesus took the time to talk to this man. So he went throughout the gamut of folks on an individual basis and gave them what they needed and talked to them. And he spent his time wisely with them. Now, to the question of why is there so much pain and suffering in the world, go back to Deuteronomy. And you've heard this in the New Testament as well, but I like the one in Deuteronomy that talks about it. It says, there will always be poor people in the land. Therefore, I command you to be open handed toward your brothers and toward the poor and needy in your land. And that's coming from Deuteronomy 15:11. The way I see it, this pain and suffering in the world, as followers of Christ, there's so much of it, there's no reason why we should not be out doing something good. There's no reason why we should not be out serving in some form or fashion. If you got nothing to do, then you're not looking around and you're not involved with the things that God is telling you to be involved in, because there's plenty of work out there. There's plenty of things to do. So God gives all of us opportunities to do good, and he gives us opportunities to serve other people so that we can cast the image of Christ. That's what we should be doing. Not sitting back in the church in a pew once a week and acting like we're so righteous. Check that off. I did my church duty for the week. See you next Sunday, brother. No, there's a lot of stuff that needs to be done. And there are a lot of opportunities given to us. And that pain and suffering that you see throughout the world, God expects his people to do something, change somebody's world, not change the entire world. Thank you. And I hope you enjoyed this first short stack.